I want you to imagine something for a second. You've just been fired from the hit sketch show Saturday Night Live after being a cast member for 5 years, and now you try to start a career acting in movies. Your first one in a major starring vehicle role grosses twice its budget despite negative critical reception. Your next film releases the following year, grosses twice as much as your previous film did, with an even lower budget cost. Then, for 2 straight years following that year, you have 3 consecutive movies that prove to be financially successful for you and all gross over 100 million worldwide. At this point, you feel like you're on top of the world and quickly go to work on what your next project will be. First, you decide on a premise in which you play the son of Satan, who is tasked with returning his 2 brothers back to hell to prevent them from causing utter chaos on earth by throwing off the balance of good and evil. You then are able to secure yourself the biggest budget you've had for a movie up until this point from New Line Cinema, and cast a bunch of big-name stars to also be featured in said movie. And so, you eagerly wait as it releases to see similar results from your previous films. The movie eventually releases in the year 2000, and to your surprise, it fails massively. Not only does it receive overwhelmingly negative reviews, but you lose a lot of money in the process. You sit there feeling deflated that you probably made the biggest gamble of your young career thus far, and because of this, you vow to never make another one like it again. And so for the next 25 plus years of your acting career, you stick to a safe and familiar formula that you know will guarantee you money no matter what. You never think back on that fateful weekend in November of 2000 when, for a split second, you thought this huge risk would end up paying off in some way, but that just never came to fruition. The film becomes lost in time and forgotten about entirely, as your celebrity status grows larger and larger with every passing year, eventually to the point of you being one of the most successful comedic actors of all time. Yet anyone who dared speak the name of this film brings on a curse that no person has ever attempted to talk about. Yeah, it's Little Nicky.
Okay, mercy, you win. I give. Game over.
Adam Sandler. I mean, he's honestly just one of my favorite actors of all time. He's acted in some of my favorite movies too, like Punch Drunk Love, Uncut Gems, and Happy Gilmore. He's even acted in stuff that I used to religiously watch when I was a kid, like Big Daddy, Grown Ups, Grown Ups 2, The Wedding Singer, Click, 8 Crazy Nights, Bedtime Stories, and Billy Madison.
Have some more sloppy joes. I made them extra sloppy for you. I know how you kids like them sloppy.
Lady, you're scaring us.
Now, it's no secret either that for as much as I love and admire Sandler for shaping a lot of my childhood and just starring in a good amount of quality films, he's also acted in some of the worst things ever conceived by the human mind. But we're not going to talk about those.
Well, you know, you're,
You have a little crush on me?
no.
No. So, you don't want me?
No. Yeah. I don't know what I'm supposed to say right now.
Like, what the hell is even the joke here? I instead want to highlight one of his more forgotten about, albeit more interesting failures, Little Nicky. Considered by most people to be one of Sandler's worst films in his filmography, Little Nicky is a movie I've always been fascinated by from the first time I ever watched it. So much so that last year I actually received the Blu-ray version of the movie as a Christmas present that I definitely didn't ask for.
You liar!
It's both incredibly dumb, but also weirdly absurd in a way that makes it unironically funny to me. Of course, at its core, it's still very much an Adam Sandler movie, don't get me wrong. But the fact he attempted to do something that was even slightly out of his typical formula makes this an even more intriguing case study of his career, which then begs the question, why exactly did Little Nicky fail?
Let's find out.
Let the sin begin.
But before we dive into the movie itself, it's important we get context as to what led to Little Nicky in the first place. So as I said before, in 1999, Sandler was hitting his stride in the acting world coming off the heels of the summer box office hit Big Daddy, with it grossing nearly $250 million worldwide off a $34 million budget. This year is also notable as well, since it would also mark the first release of his newly founded production company, Happy Madison, with the film Deuce Bigalow, Male Gigolo, starring Rob Schneider, and also featured the directorial debut of Mike Mitchell, who would go on to direct these.
Eyes and look real close.
Sidekick. Are you sure you know what?
The film itself surprisingly made 5 times its $17 million budget for a worldwide total gross of around $93 million despite receiving generally negative reviews at the time. It even went on to spawn a sequel 6 years later, which was so bad it received 5 Razzie nominations: Worst Picture, Worst Screenplay, Worst Remake or Sequel, Worst On-Screen Couple, and Worst Actor, which Snyder ended up winning.
Tulsi, shh. I got a thought.
You got a what?
I got a thought.
Well, hold it.
Shh. I hear something. I think the building is squeaking.
Maybe it's a bird.
Smell like booty in here.
Yeah.
I'm getting a nervous feeling in my stomach. I might start farting. If I cut some, you promise not to tell anyone?
No, I won't tell anyone.
This movie is also infamous because one critic, Patrick Goldstein, called Snyder a, quote, third-rate comic in his review for the film, and Snyder retaliated by publishing a full-page open letter for Variety and The Hollywood Reporter, calling Goldstein, quote, a third-rate, unfunny, pompous reporter. And then Snyder also said that Goldstein was unqualified to review the film since he was not a Pulitzer Prize winning journalist. Then Roger Ebert saw this, and since he already won a Pulitzer Prize in 1975, literally just called out Snyder entirely, being quoted as saying, "Your movie sucks," which then ironically would be the title of his book, published in 2007, and the entire back cover of said book is Ebert's review of the movie, as well as dedicating most of the prologue with said review. So yeah, who really won, Mr. Snyder?
Rob Schneider is the Stapler, rated PG-13.
Anyways, the first Deuce Bigalow movie ended up being a surprise financial hit for Sandler, and thus set the stage for the creation of Little Nicky. But first he needed a director, which he found in a man by the name of Stephen Brill, who prior to 1999 was mostly known for writing all 3 of the Mighty Ducks movies, as well as writing and directing the 1995 cult classic film Heavyweight starring Ben Stiller and Kenan Thompson. It's kind of unclear why Sandler chose Brill to direct Little Nicky, but if I had to take a wild guess, it would most likely be because both movies shared similar comedy styles, and that prompted Sandler to hire him as a director. Also, Brill was in The Wedding Singer with Sandler playing one of the antagonist buddies, so that could also be why Sandler hired him, because they knew each other beforehand. Then came who the distributor was going to be, and it would be found with a familiar face in New Line Cinema, who had previously distributed the aforementioned The Wedding Singer a few years prior with Sandler, which proved to be a major financial draw for the company. While the budget this time would be significantly higher compared to the former, it seemed like the perfect storm for Sandler to make a film that was more ambitious than his previous projects so far. So much so that New Line Cinema had complete faith in Sandler to deliver them yet another profitable return for the company. And they had every reason to believe it couldn't possibly fail.
Yes, it's ladies' night in the theater. Showtime.
So, like I said earlier, compared to Sandler's previous movies, Little Nicky is a full-on dark fantasy comedy that, plot-wise, is a lot less grounded in reality than something like the aforementioned Big Daddy or The Wedding Singer. The movie follows Nicky, who, along with his 2 older brothers, Adrian and Cassius, are informed by their father, Satan, that instead of naming a successor, he decides he's going to rule hell for another 10,000 years. Upon hearing this, Adrian and Cassius decide to go to Earth and create a new hell by possessing powerful leaders in New York City to create utter chaos as a result. The titular Nicky is then tasked with bringing his brothers back to hell before their father disintegrates permanently, and along the way he meets a woman named Valerie Varan who Nicky falls in love with, as well as other wacky hijinks and hilarity that ensues for our Little Nicky.
And backwards rim shot.
Simple enough, right? Just seems like your typical Adam Sandler movie, but with a dark fantasy twist to it. Oh, but you'd surely be mistaken.
For your enjoyment, I bring you a dear, sweet man, Mr. Henry Winkler.
Good evening.
Covered in bees.
Oh, not the bees! Not the bees! Ah! Oh, my eyes! Eyes! Ah! Ah!
The first thing that's clearly evident about this movie is that the high budget is definitely felt throughout it. Mainly with the production design and overall look of hell itself, I honestly think it's pretty good for what they were going for. According to the behind the scenes by production designer Perry Inderland Blake and director Stephen Brill, they didn't want to make their version of hell goofy or funny. Rather, they tried to make it as serious as possible, like it was an actual depiction of what people would think hell is. And honestly, they succeeded in my opinion. Not only is it just a decent design direction to go with some really solid set pieces, but it also offsets the absurd nature of the comedy sometimes. Likewise, I think the soundtrack is pretty good too, honestly. It's a lot of rock-heavy tracks that match the Hell production design pretty well. I mean, you got songs from Van Halen, Ozzy Osbourne, Chicago, Foo Fighters, Scorpions, and even AC/DC. This also weirdly has like a really good cast. It still might honestly be one of Sandler's most stacked casts in any of his movies all time. I mean, look at the people he got to be in this. You got Patricia Arquette, Harvey Keitel, Rhys Ifans, Tommy Lister Jr., Michael McKean, Quentin Tarantino, Rodney Dangerfield, John Witherspoon, Clint Howard, Dan Marino, George Wallace, Reese Witherspoon, Laura Harring, and Ozzy Osbourne. What the hell?
What's with the ball?
Ozzy?
Holy shit.
And that's not even including the Sandler regulars either, like Alan Covert, Kevin Nealon, John Lovitz, Peter Dante, Jonathan Loran, Blake Clark, Dana Carvey, Rob Schneider, and Henry Winkler. I'm guessing because of the budget they were able to get all these people to be in this, but it's still just insane regardless. Also, the fact that Tarantino was in Little Nicky and he almost casted Sandler 9 years later in Inglourious Basterds, but Sandler had to decline due to scheduling conflicts and just ended up casting Eli Roth for his role instead. The same guy who made this.
You blanket me for life? How will I manage to survive? Just kidding! I was designed to withstand all kinds of violent acts, even completely unjustified ones like yours. Now I bet you're wondering, what's the deal with this thing?
No, I'm not.
There's also a lot of hidden Easter eggs in here as well, like how this is the fourth Sandler film to feature a love interest who has alliteration in their name. And Billy Madison was Veronica Vaughn, and Happy Gilmore is Virginia Bennett. In The Waterboy is Vicky Valancourt, and in Little Nicky it's Valerie Varane, Patricia Arquette's character. This was also the first official movie, I believe, to acknowledge the Sandlerverse. There's the obvious ones like Chubbs Peterson makes a cameo in Heaven from Happy Gilmore, Rob Schneider makes a cameo as the townie from The Waterboy, and Dana Carvey plays... No, it can't be. And there's a more obscure one where John Lovitz, who plays the Peeper, is seen playing the song Ladies Night by Kool and the Gang in the opening scene of the movie, which is the same song Lovitz sang in The Wedding Singer, just as a different character, obviously. The character itself was also a reference to one of Sandler's comedy CDs, Stan and Judy's Kid. Also, I can't really prove it, but John Lovitz in Little Nicky is basically the same character from Grown Ups 2. I mean, Jesus Christ, like, why the hell is this guy always playing weirdos in Adam Sandler movies?
Faster, faster. It's too fast. Slower. Now, everybody turn, face the back of the room, bend over, and reach for your toes.
Why do we have to turn around?
If you please. And bend over as low as you can go. Let's take the right hand and slap it against the right cheek. Relax the wrist and slap that right butt. Slap it. Good, I want to hear that slap. Oh, yes, this is wonderful.
What's the joke? This isn't funny, this is just random!
But nothing will ever beat his role as Mel Carmichael from The Benchwarmers.
Richie, do you have any kids?
Never had a date.
Clark?
Never spoke to a girl.
Gus?
Also, another really random thing, but I thought Mr. Beefy was voiced by Sandler as well whenever I watched this for the first time. But then I found out he's actually voiced by Robert Smigel.
Your brothers can possess people, so they probably won't look like themselves. You have to be suspicious of everyone.
The animatronic characters here do get a bit quirky at night.
So you think with all these positives, the movie would be good, right? Right?
Wrong!
I want to say right up front that I don't really think this movie is that bad. As I pointed out before, there is good stuff in here that I think make it interesting for a reason. However, I do actually have a good amount of problems with this, unfortunately. First and probably obvious one is the humor. It's just very hit or miss for me personally. And for every joke that works, there's one right after it that doesn't.
The Lord gave my son the strength to get off drugs.
Ma'am, I know your son. And believe me, he was better off on the drugs. At least when he was smoking hashish, he used to make me laugh occasionally.
It's like 80 degrees in this hallway. Where are you from, the South?
Yes. The Deep South.
Why is that funny?
I don't know.
It's at best just crude, lowbrow type of stuff that can sometimes work depending on the delivery of the line.
We'd get so loopy, she would forget I was a dog.
She was a human?
No, she was a sewer rat.
What? I don't even know what to say to that. And at worst, just has jokes that have just aged like milk.
Soon you will see things more horrible than you could even imagine. Well, maybe not that horrible, but still pretty bad.
Why is that funny?
Oh, that turned you on there, RuPaul?
Why is that funny? You know, I was in love once. But she said I wasn't financially reliable, and she needed that.
Now by she, do you mean he?
No.
Busted!
Homophobia.
There's also jokes that don't make any sense, but because of how it's said, just made me laugh for some reason.
I wish you would let me rub those feet. Of course, I wouldn't use my hands.
Okay, maybe I literally just missed it, but I've seen this like 3 times. I still don't understand what this is even supposed to mean. What?
Jesus this, Moses that, Abraham hit me with a wiffle ball bat.
Oh my God.
20,000 years ago, Grandpa Lucifer said it's better to rule in hell than it is to serve in heaven. Well, I'm tired of serving in hell.
Hell! Bad out of hell! Hell!
Another thing is that the special effects are pretty bad too, considering the ridiculously high budget this had at the time. Most of it just looks like video game graphics or just poorly rendered to where it looks uncanny in a lot of scenes. I mean, I don't know. I take these over the visual effects in The Matrix Reloaded.
Cookies need love like everything does.
In terms of plot, I think the biggest thing for me is I don't quite fully understand Cassius and Adrian's storyline to make their own personal hell. So it's clearly established that they're both angered by the fact that their father has decided to rule for another 10,000 years. So the brothers decide to go to Earth and cause absolute chaos by throwing off the balance of good and evil, yada, yada, yada.
Or something like that.
Okay, that part I get. But then their idea of doing this is by lowering the drinking age from 21 to 10, changing the New York official slogan, and having the Globetrotters almost lose for the first time in 53 years to this point. And then to make it even more confusing, when Adrian gains full power by overthrowing his father at the climax of the story, he then tells everyone on Earth that there is a hell and that they're all going to it, even after telling them before, disguised as the Cardinal, that there is no heaven or hell. So wait, why would this matter if his whole plan was to make a new hell but on Earth? How would that even factor into this plan? And why the hell am I giving more thought to the logic of this movie than the film does?
Wait, you know what? Screw this.
Sure, I know it's just a comedy movie at the end of the day, but you gotta have at least some sort of established rules that make sense and not just be completely random.
You know, from this angle, you're kind of cute.
You think so?
Oh my God, he just opened his mouth and swallowed that spit.
And there's Nicky himself, which, while I genuinely think Sandler gives an okay performance as him character-wise, the voice he does is pretty grating to sit through for most of the runtime.
Plus, the Prince of Darkness should have sort of a distinguished look to him, and let's face facts, I'm no George Clooney. Don't forget clinically insane. So you're saying I need to go to Earth and kill my brothers? All right, bro. Well, the jig is up then. Get in the flash, come on. John, absolutely nothing. The Blizzard always came straight with his messages. Release the evil. I command you not to blow up and go into that metal circle. Ozzy? I'm asking you one last time. Get in the fly. All right, I get it.
Sandler apparently said he got the inspiration for the movie when he and his friends saw the 1987 film Angel Heart starring Mickey Rourke and Robert De Niro, and afterwards joked about the idea of Satan in that movie having a loser's son that he has to drag around, which isn't necessarily a bad idea per se, but I think the way the script is written just turns this idea into the most one-note thing ever. It's essentially just Bobby Boucher if he was the son of Satan with the plot of Happy Gilmore. And Nicky himself is written so overtly nice and naive while his brothers are cartoonishly evil in order for the audience to easily identify with Nicky in the most low-effort way possible from a writing perspective, which would be fine if he was given any other personality traits besides being nice, caring a lot for his dad, and loves to eat Popeye's chicken every chance he gets.
Popeye's chicken is fucking awesome.
I don't know. I feel like one thing I've learned with Sandler's movies is that most of the time his characters are either lovable losers / pushovers, complete assholes, or just Adam Sandler.
Adam Sandler? What are you doing here?
Waiting for them to play Gangnam Style.
But just going back to the movie itself, there's so much absurdity that happens in this that you can't help but laugh at what you're actually seeing.
Why don't we all just have fun and do whatever the hell we want?
Pick me a winner.
What's Nicky doing there? Trying to capture his brother in a flask and preserve the balance of good and evil on Earth.
Did you just talk?
No.
Then there's scenes that seem like something out of a Mad Libs game.
Daddy can't help you. Daddy can't help you.
Yes, I am.
Now you're gonna see what a big horny bird actually looks like. In hell.
This Coke tastes like Pepsi.
You changed a Coke into a Pepsi. That was your big transformation?
Yeah, I understand. He turned my beer into Pepsi.
And you can't forget about all the Popeye's chicken references. Holy shit.
Release the awesome.
Popeye's chicken is the shiznit.
Popeye's chicken is fucking awesome.
Can I have one of those? Coming right up. Talk about a hole-in-one.
Subway sandwiches will drive away your hunger.
Then there's like weird small stuff, like how Satan has a DNS that looks like the Daredevil logo. Then there's like a random reference to the show Felicity with Carrie Russell. There's also a nice little nod in which is revealed at the end of the film before the credits that Nicky's mom Holly fell in love with her aerobics instructor Chris Farley. That reminds me, I can't remember where exactly I saw it, but there was a theory that someone said online a long time ago that had Chris Farley never tragically passed away in 1997, all the roles that Kevin James plays in Adam Sandler movies or productions would have been Farley instead. Could you imagine if he was like freaking Paul Blart Mall Cop or something?
Yeah, Paul. That's because it's a margarita.
What? I said you're drinking
margarita.
Decaf coffee crystals. What? You son of a bitch! You no good damn son of a bitch!
But you know, despite all of this, at least the movie was a great success and didn't lose New Line Cinema a lot of money. Oh, wait.
Dude, check the news. It doesn't matter what channel.
So Little Nicky officially released on November 10th, 2000. And despite it opening number 2 at the North American box office with $16 million in its opening weekend, the film went on to only gross $39.5 million domestically and another $19 million overseas for a worldwide total of $58 million. Losing New Line Cinema around $27 to $22 million when accounting for its $85 to $80 million budget. Not only that, but it received generally negative reviews from critics. However, it did get slightly more positive reviews with audiences. Some critics even described this movie as the worst comedy ever made, like Michael J. Nelson of Mystery Science Theater 3000. Oh, Michael. That won't be made for another 12 years.
What about Mr. Mitty? Remember him?
What? No, what's that?
Mr. Mitty, I used to put an oven mitt in my hand. He would cheer you up all the time when you were sad. Don't be upset, young man. I'm your best friend. Even though I'm an oven man.
No, I don't remember that.
Funnily enough, Roger Ebert gave this movie his highest rating for a Sandler movie up until he reviewed Punch Drunk Love 2 years later. And from what I've read, you need at least 3 stars in order for a movie to be recommended by his scale. As with every Sandler movie before Little Nicky, he gave them a 1-star rating or lower. Well, maybe it was because every one of those movies didn't constantly reference Popeye's chicken, even though they didn't even talk about it with the filmmakers about mentioning them when it was being made. Wait, they thought Nicky eating Popeye's chicken was for the sake of humor? What?
Why is that funny?
The movie also got nominated for 5 Razzies, including Worst Picture, Worst Actor, Worst Supporting Actress, Worst Director, and Worst Screenplay. It lost in every single category to Battlefield Earth, which ended up sweeping that year, winning all of its 8 nominations.
While you were still learning how to spell your name, I was being trained to conquer galaxies.
Which was a record at the time for most Razzies won by a single movie until... Wait, who broke that record again? See, there's irony and then there's whatever you call this.
Sick joke! You do know what they mean, and you're lying right now. Ukmagadodo means I love you. Bungie means thank you. Clapper means left. Hey, do you remember what Laki Maki Coco means? What does this mean again?
Jack, don't.
It means...
So why did Little Nicky fail exactly? Well, I can chop it up to 3 specific things. The first thing is that it came out a week after Charlie's Angels, which ended up grossing $260 million worldwide in comparison. Also, it came out a week before How the Grinch Stole Christmas, which ended up becoming the highest grossing film of the year domestically and the 6th highest grossing film of 2000 worldwide. It also happened to star Clint Howard, who's the brother of Ron Howard, who directed the movie. Well, at least the ice cream man won something, I guess.
You guys aren't cuffed. What are you, narcs?
Narcs? Imagine. Us narcs. No. No, actually, we're friends of a serial killer.
The second thing is that the budget was just insanely high and proved to be too big of a risk for Sandler and New Line Cinema. And the third thing is that I think it was honestly just too absurd and bizarre for mainstream audiences and hardcore Sandler fans at the same time. Now, as for what I think of the movie itself, besides all the delicious buckets of Popeye's chicken.
Popeye's chicken is fucking awesome.
Don't get me wrong, this movie is still bad, but it's kind of one of the best examples of a so bad is good type of movie, and I love it.
Normally, the Globetrotters represent family entertainment.
Who gives a shit?
I think the fact it's so absurd and so bizarre is why it sticks out to me a lot more than other Sandler movies. I'd honestly take this over something like, I don't know, Pixels.
The bifocal blaster is here, by the way.
But how did this movie affect Sandler's career as a whole? It seems like he's doing pretty okay.
I see things so clearly now. I choose my destiny.
I think what really makes Little Nicky so interesting to me is that this movie should have in theory tanked Sandler's career, but weirdly enough, it didn't. If this was any other actor with this exact same budget and everything, I legit think it would have ruined their career far worse than it did for Sandler. I know the term blank check is usually reserved for directors that are given a green light to make their passion projects, most of the time after doing a film before that's won a lot of awards or garnered critical praise. But yeah, no, this movie was pretty much the closest thing an actor like Sandler could get a blank check for. And really, it all starts to make sense why it didn't ruin his career. Because he had those strings of hits from 95 to 99, he was able to get away with making a movie like Little Nicky. I mean, what did he have to lose? Well, besides his dignity, of course. If it succeeded, then he'd take more risks like it. And if it failed, he could go back to doing stuff that was going to guarantee him money. Take a guess which one happened.
We've got to have money.
After not doing a film at all in 2001, Sandler returned the following year to do Mr. Deeds, a remake of the 1936 Frank Capra film Mr. Deeds Goes to Town. Ironically, Mr. Deeds was also once again directed by Stephen Brill, only this time the film proved to be a financial success for Sandler, with it grossing $171 million worldwide off a $50 million budget. Holy shit! Brill would actually go on to be a frequent collaborator with Sandler, directing 3 more films after Mr. Deeds, although all these would be released through Netflix rather than theatrical releases. So yeah, just looking at Sandler's entire filmography in hindsight, I guess the most frustrating part about Little Nicky's failure was that he never took a big risk like this ever again in his career. Sure, there was stuff like You Don't Mess with the Zohan, Funny People, That's My Boy, and Pixels, but only 2 of these turned a profit, and even still, besides some parts of Funny People, they mostly are just Adam Sandler movies at their core. I know he signed like that multi-year deal with Netflix to distribute his movies, which has been that way since 2016. And in retrospect, at least from a business perspective, it was probably the right decision for Sandler anyway. I think Pixels box office specifically showed that his movies started to become less popular with audiences compared to what they once were 10 to 20 years prior to its release. It's sad really, because when Sandler actually tries, he's shown to be very much capable of being a really talented actor. And yeah, sure, Little Nicky isn't good by any means, but at least it tried something different. Something that wasn't a copy and paste of previous Sandler movies. Most of the time. But to me, it seemed like how we saw people aren't really a big fan of change and thus felt like he had to go back to what they did enjoy. I don't know. Maybe he mostly did the movie because he thought it was a funny idea. Maybe he did it because he genuinely wanted to break away from his usual stuff. But either way, Little Nicky seems like a long forgotten time relic. Not only was it Sandler's biggest budget at that point in his career, but even accounting for every single Happy Madison production since its release, it's still the 4th most expensive movie by his company. In all honesty, I don't even really know if we'll see something like Little Nicky again from Sandler, especially not when every one of his movies that come on Netflix are so easy to make and accessible to everyone now. However, role-wise, he's done a little more dramatic stuff in recent years like Hustle, The Meyerowitz Story, Spaceman, and his most recent film, Jay Kelly, once again reuniting with Noah Baumbach when he did The Meyerowitz Stories in 2017, which from what I've seen, seems like he's in the mix for an Oscar nomination this year. And I'm going to tell you right now, if he actually gets nominated and somehow wins, this will be me if that happens. Then maybe we can finally get Little Nicky 2, The Search for More Money. But why Little Nicky, you say? I mean, what makes this more interesting than other Sandler movies? Okay, Little Nicky to me is just like a story I know called The Sandler Who Lost His Way. The world was changing, and the Sandler was getting more popular. So you see, the Sandler was like Nicky, in that they were both lost on Earth. And nobody, especially the audience, society, knew where to find them. Except that the Sandler was a star. And the Nicky, my friends, that was the reflection. Yeah, Little Nicky rules.
Mr. Madison, what you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on you.
Popeye's chicken.
In hell.